Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It's me, Legal Vices, your friendly neighborhood law racks, uh, just hanging out here, having a good time, welcoming you all here. And today is Tuesday, the 25th of October. It's 9:02 p.m. here in dark and chilly South Korea. What are we doing today? Today is a makeup stream. Today's a makeup stream for OJ Simpson. If you were part of the disaster of last Thursday when StreamYard was behaving like a dick and making it utterly impossible, we only got through 2 minutes of the video that I wanted to get through. So we're doing that again today. Today's the makeup day. We'll be back with more OJ Simpson on Thursday at our regularly scheduled OJ Simpson time. But for today, we're doing the redo. It's a do-over of last Thursday. And any snorting, sniffing, wheezing, coughing that you hear are from the dogs, not me. This is a dog day here. I swear to God, these things just wait for me to stream. They sit here just quiet as death until 2 minutes before I go on stream. Then they start snoring and snorting and licking the floor and hyperventilating and huffing and sneezing. So that's what we get today. There's not enough time to put them outside. So for the duration of this, we'll have English bulldog noises in the background. I don't know what we're doing here, but okay, here's the week in review. Like I said, we've got it looks like I'm going to be doing the Brooks trial again. Nick Rekieta said he was going to wake up in 3 hours, but then again, at the very, very end of his stream, he said, or maybe Legal Vices can take it. And then he signed off, so I have no idea what that means. But I'm locked and loaded and ready to go just in case. So we're going to wrap this up in about an hour and 27 minutes from now. So what we've got going on this week, we've got the OJ Simpson today. Tomorrow, we're going to be doing sort of a holiday gift guide, a holiday whiskey and cigar recommendations with some pop culture thrown in. We've got some pop culture stories to go through, a few idiots to talk about. And so that's what we'll be doing Wednesday. Thursday, more OJ Simpson, more racist cop Mark Fuhrman. Friday will be Fair and Balanced. It'll be a Friday evening US stream. Fair and Balanced and I will be doing our Halloween Unexplained show. And next Monday, Maritime Monday, will be Ghost Ships because it will be Halloween Day. So Ghost Ships next Monday. So that's the week in preview, as we always do, to let you know what's coming up. If you're brand new here, please hit that like button. We've got 103 of you here now, which is a great start. 34 likes. Come on. 2/3 of you aren't doing your job. Get down there. Make the law racks happy. The law rack speaks for the likes. So get down there and get those likes. And we have exactly 31,300 subscribers. We picked up 800 subscribers yesterday. That was pretty damn cool. So that's where we are with that. And you know the deal. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the notifications, join the members if you want to. We have 700 members. There's a piece of merchandise available from the store if you're so inclined to buy a coffee cup. It says Legal Vices on the front, and this is a cocktail glass on the back of the coffee cup. So there you go. Legal Vices. I've asked a bunch, but have you tried Conor McGregor's Proper 12 yet? No, I haven't. It's not available here in Korea. I mean, if somebody wants to buy it for me, I'll be more than happy to give it a crack. But essentially, from what I understand, it's just really bad Jameson. But hey, I'm not going to tell him that to his face. So. Like button, subscribe, notifications, and the super chats are always the way they are. Not required, not necessary. Try to read the stream. Try to answer as many of the streamy questions as I can. But the super chats where you part with your hard-earned money to throw it in my general direction gets you moved to the top of the comment list. We answer every question. We address every issue raised in the super chats. So there we go. Now, with this, we got to jump back in here to the OJ Simpson trial. Today is the continuation of the F. Lee Bailey cross-examination of racist cop Mark Fuhrman. Kind of give the same little background that we've given the past couple of days here. When we've done this is part 3 of the cross-examination. F. Lee Bailey is an absolute legend. He is the GOAT criminal defense lawyer. He's one of the best that's ever walked planet Earth. Big name trials. He represented Patty Hearst, son of Sam Shepard, who was the famous doctor in the Harrison Ford movie, The Fugitive, with Tommy Lee Jones, and an older TV show by the same name. He's done a lot of these. He represented one of the people accused of one of the biggest war crimes of the Vietnam War, the My Lai Village massacre. So he is the man when it comes to criminal defense lawyers. There's very few of his caliber. Jerry Spence, maybe Clarence Darrow. I mean, obviously one of the legends. I mean, people of that caliber. It's very, very rarefied era that he walked in. He's going after Mark Fuhrman because Mark Fuhrman was the cop that found all. Hang on here. Hey, doofus, knock it off. All right, sorry. Dog yelling. Okay, where was I? Cross-examining Mark Fuhrman. Mark Fuhrman was a cop who was rarely where he should have been. He has a history that we'll get into his history in a couple of weeks from now. Because F. Lee Bailey in his cross-examination, which took several days, goes back into his timeline a little bit. But what we're talking about now is the actual time of the murder. He shows up at the murder scene of Nicole Brown Simpson and Goldman. They're at Nicole Brown Simpson's house. He doesn't really do anything there. He stands around. And then they tell him to basically go wait on the curb and wait for someone to pick him up. And while he's standing there, he wanders around a little bit. First of all, he said, I just stood there. I did nothing. I just stood there on the corner, waited for 90 minutes. But somehow, through cross-examination, through the absolute brilliant questioning of F. Lee Bailey, he starts to admit, well, okay, maybe he was walking around a little bit. Maybe he walked around near the bodies. Maybe he stood very, very close to Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman's body when he had no business being there. And then he gets picked up and taken over to OJ Simpson's house with a couple of other detectives. With a few other, I think it was 3 other detectives, if my memory serves me right. They're talking to Cato Kalin, who's mentioning hearing a bump on the back wall of his house, and there's a little narrow walkway between the back wall and a fence. He mentions hearing something back there, talking to the housekeeper. They're talking to other people. While they're waiting to figure out what's going on, Mark Fuhrman, again, without being told to do so, just on his own, decides he's going to wander off down the driveway towards OJ Simpson's white Bronco. While he's down there, and you have the Bronco, you have the detectives up here, you have the Bronco down here, and on the other side of the Bronco, where the police cannot see Mark Fuhrman, where Mark Fuhrman is where he's not supposed to be, suddenly he discovers tiny drops of blood on the door of the Bronco and just inside the windowsill on the inside of the Bronco. And of course, he opened the door. He opened the door to see the blood on the inside. So he's worried. He wasn't asked to go down there. He wasn't told to go down there. He went down there alone, and he was on the other side of the Bronco, away from the other detectives, when he finds one of the most important one of the most important pieces of evidence in the entire trial: the blood drops on the Bronco. And then he goes back and he's talking to Cato Kalin about this bump that he hears. Then he decides, hey, maybe the killer is still back in that little walk space between the house and the fence. I better go back there alone because the killer might still be back there. So Mark Fuhrman goes alone back behind the house. alone, where nobody told him to go, nobody asked him to go. The other detectives were on other parts of the property. He walks back there all by himself with his itty-bitty flashlight and finds a bloody glove. The bloody glove. The if it does not fit, you must acquit bloody glove. So, why is that a big deal? Well, if you find a piece of evidence, you should probably, well, first of all, again, he wasn't supposed to be there. Nobody told him to go there. He was just going rogue off on his own when he found this other incredibly important piece of evidence. So he said, I think I should tell one of the other detectives. So he walks back through the potential crime scene, where if whoever dropped that glove would have walked probably. He walks back through that, gets one of the detectives, brings the detective in. That's 4 sets of footprints. He shows him the glove, walks that detective out, 6 pairs of tracks, goes and gets the second detective, brings him in. Walks out with him, goes and gets the third one. Rather than bring them all together, he brought each one of these detectives to the bloody glove individually, and thereby destroying any evidence of how, who, or why that glove is where it was. But before he went in there the first time, F. Lee Bailey asked him, so were you afraid? Were you afraid the murder? He said, well, I wasn't afraid. I got my gun. And he said, okay, well, were you concerned? He said, yes. So if you had the apprehension that there might be a murderer hiding in the darkened end of this little space, and all you've got is your tiny little flashlight, and he kept making fun of his tiny little flashlight. Innuendos abounded. He said, what did you do to defend yourself? And for some reason, Mark Fuhrman said, I walked forward. And this is where we wrapped up the last round of questioning, when F. Lee Bailey says, okay, so to defend yourself, to put yourself in a defensive position against a possible murderer at the darkened end of this small walkway, you walked forward into the darkness alone. And he said, yes. And then he talked about the cobwebs, how he had to move the cobwebs out of the way, which F. Lee Bailey said, okay, if someone was back there, why would you have had to walk through cobwebs to get to that glove? And now this is where we pick up today. This is where we pick up to the beginning of the cross-examination today. He's talking to him. They're going to go back to the murder scene, because they've talked about the glove, how nobody knows how it got there. All traces of how it could possibly have gotten there were destroyed by him walking back and forth a bunch of times with a bunch of people. He mentioned the cobwebs. Now he's going to go back to where he wasn't supposed to be, when he wasn't supposed to be walking around getting close to the bodies. And then he makes a very important mistake. Mr. Fuhrman does. That's where we're going to pick up. And I'm going to yell at the dogs to stop licking the floor for some reason. All right, here we go. And let me know how the volume is. It should be okay. But if we need it louder, just let me know. We're picking this up mid-sentence where they're talking about going back to Bundy, where the murder scene happened. The Bundy location is where the murder happened. Before we get going, let's quickly plow through the super chat we have. Hi. Hey, Jillian Ann. What's up? Hi, Joe Choi. Talking to each other. That's not the one I meant to click on. Second time is the charm. Yeah, Stephanie Tam, we're hoping that we can get through this one. we're hoping this is going to be a good stream. But all right, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and super chat if you want. If you don't. All right, here we go. Let's take it away, F. Lee Bailey, and we're going to be stopping it really quick.
And you described, as you did for us, page 64 at the top, that having been unable to see the bodies from your original position to assess.
Okay, this is where they're talking about being at the murder scene, seeing the two bodies. He couldn't see them where he was, so he decided to walk closer.
Satisfactory degree. Risky took you around Dorothy up the alley in through the house so you could come out the front door and have a better vantage point at the top of the steps without walking through the block. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And at the top of page 64, you are talking about that, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Question, how far would you say you were from where the bodies were located? Answer, I was directly above the female victim, which was probably 3 feet. The male victim would have been 10 feet, 12 feet. Question, all right, and from that vantage point, you first observed the glove that you told us about? Answer, not first, no. Question, when did you first observe it? Answer, we had flashlights. We were looking at the female victim. We looked at the male victim. I noticed the glove when I walked around after I exited the residence the first time and walked around to the side or the north side.
Here we go. Listen to this.
Listen to this. Bundy, of 875 Bundy. There's an iron fence, and through that iron fence, you can get very close to the male victim. And looking there, I could see them at his feet.
Right there. Big mistake on the part of Mark Fuhrman. Right there, where he was the one that discovered the glove at OJ Simpson's house, but he was talking about when he first saw the bodies and he saw them. There are no subtitles for this, unfortunately. He saw them, talking about the gloves, plural. He saw plural gloves at the murder scene. But then later, when all the other detectives showed up, there was only one glove, and the other one mysteriously showed up at the murder scene. Right, some of you people are asking to turn up the volume a bit. It's a bad volume deal because it's ancient videotape technology, but we can boost it up a little bit. You'll get a lot more hiss, but you'll get a lot more of the audio too. So there we go. Them is 2 exactly, Rose. So here he said, I saw them. Plural gloves. But then what do you know? There's only one there, and the other one shows up at the murder scene by him, who was in place where he was not supposed to be, where he was not told to go, doing something he hadn't been instructed to do. Let's see how this questioning goes.
Did you use the word them in your answer?
Yes, sir.
On July 5th?
Yes, sir.
And was the last item to which them could have applied in your narrative the word glove?
Singular, yes.
That's his answer. Them means one glove. But that doesn't go over well, so how does he explain that one away?
I'm simply asking whether glove, line 14, was the item you were talking about just prior to saying I saw them at his feet.
Them, I was referring to the knit cap and the glove.
Show me anywhere on that page where the knit cap is mentioned.
See, this is beautiful questioning. F. Lee Bailey, he asks these questions in a roundabout way where you think he's asking just pointless, trivial questions, but he's just casting this net, and then it's just one jerk of the string, and he draws the net tight. So he went from I saw them to, oh, them, I meant one glove, to 2 sentences later, them referred to one glove and a knit cap, and now he's being said, okay, where in this report have you ever mentioned a knit cap?
Can you?
That page, no.
No. Okay. You see anything on the prior page, Detective Fuhrman, about the knit cap?
Do you want me to look at the prior page?
Sure.
Sure, go ahead.
I don't know how you can answer the question without looking. 63.
Detective Fuhrman, do not get into a battle of wits with one of the greatest lawyers of all time. Well, he did, and it didn't work out well for him.
I do not.
Okay. Page 65, Detective Fuhrman.
Excuse me, Mr. Bailey.
I'm sorry.
Court reporter needs to change the paper.
Okay.
The court reporter has to change her transcription roll. These were back in the old days. Love those beautiful CRT monitors.
What's that? Page 65, Detective Fuhrman. 8, line 8. Does that photo, referring to a photo, accurately depict the glove at the location where you saw it? To the best of my recollection, yes. Question. All right. And you didn't actually pick up the glove to examine it, did you? Answer, not at that time. No. Did you give that answer?
Yes,
At what time did you pick up the glove?
I didn't. I turned the glove over with a pen when I returned to the Bundy scene after being at Rockingham.
And that's what you meant when you said didn't pick up the glove.
See, he's just not doing well with these questions. I didn't pick the glove up at that time. But then to him, turning over a glove means picking it up. Really, really bad testimony. This is the early stages, and it just gets worse.
You had in mind turning it over with a pen?
I believe that was Mr. Ullman's words in the question. I didn't use the word pickup.
But the question was put to you, Detective Furman. He said, and you didn't actually pick the glove up to examine it, did you? And your answer was, not at that time, no. Do you see anything in that answer that refers to turning it over with a pen at any time?
Overruled.
The objection was
Not on that
argumentative.
page, no.
You see another page where you indicated that that's what you meant by later picking up the glove.
No, sir.
Overruled. Speaking objection, counsel.
Now, see what he's done here very, very effectively. No matter what Mark Fuhrman says, there's three possibilities. He's a really shitty report writer. He's lying. Or what was the third one? he's a bad report writer. He's lying, or he just did what he said he did. Which is handle evidence and walk around crime scenes. He's incompetent, a liar, or it just doesn't look good no matter how he answers questions. No, there were no pictures before the flip. There were no pictures of the glove at all at that point. Oh, no. No.
And possibly last week, Detective Furman, you indicated some uncertainty as to when you were notified that one of the victims was in fact the ex-wife of OJ Simpson. Remember that?
Yes, sir.
You said you couldn't quite be sure when you thought that was the fact.
That the female victim was Nicole Brown Simpson. Yes, sir, I remember.
As you sit there today, what is your best recollection as to when you decided or your superiors decided that this was Nicole Brown Simpson? What time of day?
I would say on June 13th sometime, but I don't recollect when.
1, 2, 3 hours after you got there?
I have no idea, sir.
Is it fair to infer that if you went to notify Mr. Simpson that his wife was dead a little after 5, that you thought she was in fact dead? Is that right?
I didn't go there at my direction, so I believe it was assumed, and I believe they were going there to find out anything about her or make a notification.
Page 31, Detective Furman.
And see, F. Lee Bailey does the thing that any good lawyer would do, but he does it expertly. Kind of the same way that Camille Vasquez was doing with Amber Heard's cross-examination. Never asked a single question. Of course, with Bailey, never utters a single sentence without being able to point to somewhere where he is proven right. He's a fantastic orator. He's sharp as, just his mind is unlike anything you've seen. He's going to outwit anybody any day of the week, quite frankly. But the way he asks these questions, he knows damn well what the answer is and can point out to specifically someplace in all of the evidentiary documents where he is correct and the witness is wrong, if that's the case.
Question by Ms. Clark at line 4. Were you aware, line 5, were you aware of who one of the, at least the female victim was at that time? Answer. I was notified that when I was notified at my residence at 1:05 that morning, I was told that one of the victims was the ex-wife of OJ Simpson. Did you relay that information to Detective Van Adder? Answer, it was relayed, yes. Now, after you were told.
Did you see him just get caught there in another lie? When did you know it was Nicole Brown Simpson? Oh, I don't know. I didn't know. Sometime during the next day. Well, when you went to his house to tell him his ex-wife was dead, did you know? Well, I don't know. I didn't. But then he has him right here testifying under direct examination, or I can't remember if that was direct examination or if that was under a. Boy, my English is not an affidavit. Fuck me. Yeah, deposition. There we go. Or whether it was in a deposition or testimony. But he specifically said he was told at 1 o'clock that morning before he even left his house that the victim was OJ Simpson's ex-wife. He's lying or he's an idiot. One of those two. And that's the only way he can come off. And again, just to make it absolutely clear, why we're doing this is not to say whether or not OJ did it or didn't do it. If you don't think he did it, you're going to point to this guy right here as one of the primary reasons why OJ Simpson got justice and was found not guilty. If you think he did it, if you know he did it in your heart of hearts, you can point to this guy right here as one of the reasons why justice was not served and why a man got away with murder. No matter which side of this fence you're on, this guy right here is the reason, one of the few people, one of the few reasons that this jury verdict went the way it did. He's lying, he's hiding things. And we're gonna get into racism and evidence planting really deep here in the next week or so. So again, we're doing this to show you lawyering techniques, to show you one of the greatest lawyers in history cross-examining someone and utterly destroying them and casting reasonable doubt on a situation. If it's reasonable that he planted evidence, if it's reasonable that he had a reason, racism or something, to go after a black man who was married to a white woman and who has a history of white women, if those are reasonable grounds, you think why he may have done this, then the acquittal happens. What is this guy's name? This guy's name is Mark Fuhrman. Mark Fuhrman's not doing anything now. When did this happen? He went to meet his. I guess he's still alive. He's like living somewhere in northern Idaho, I believe. I thought he died recently, but I guess not. He's written a couple books. He went up to live in northern Idaho, where coincidentally a lot of racists live, up in Coeur d'Alene area. So yeah, his career was over after this trial. But we're gonna go over that over the next few weeks, the rest of his testimony and the destruction of him and his career. So again, I'm not trying to sway anybody's opinion. I'm just showing you how, regardless of whether you think he did it or not, how reasonable doubt is sown by a master lawyer, and how a police department can utterly screw up something by putting a shady AF guy on the stand with a known history of problems, which we'll get into.
At 1:05 that Nicole Brown Simpson was dead. Did you continue to doubt it?
We had no indication absolutely that was the female victim.
Did you challenge Mr. Phillips in any way when he told you she was dead?
There was no challenge involved, sir.
Did you question his assertion as to her identity?
No.
Did you ever question it?
I don't think I would have jumped to the conclusion early into the investigation.
You wouldn't have jumped to the conclusion of the identity of the victim, even though a detective who was your boss told you what it was?
I didn't question it.
From your perspective, what efforts, if you know, were made to determine Mr. Goldman's identity so that his next of kin could be notified?
I have no knowledge of anything to do with that.
You were not involved in that effort.
No, sir.
Do you have anything to do with notice to the Brown family
No, sir.
about their daughter? When did you tell us yesterday that you learned where you were going on the trip to Rockingham? Was it when you were in the car with Phillips and he told you?
There was some conversation if I knew the way up there.
With
I-
whom? With
I'm sorry.
Phillips?
Yes, sir.
Okay, but were you already in the car?
When we knew the purpose? Yes.
Okay. Well, were you in the car when you knew where you were going?
I think it was somewhat simultaneous with getting back to the front of the location and talking to Detective Phillips, Van Adder and Lang directing us to take us up there or something to that effect. I got in the car with Detective Phillips and it was discussed then.
Had you disclosed to either any of the three detectives as of the point you left for Rockingham your prior involvement with the Simpsons?
Yes.
To whom did you describe it and when?
Detective Phillips.
When?
And Detective Phillips asked me if I knew how to get to the Simpson house or the Rockingham house.
That was at 5 in the morning or after?
I think it was a little before that.
That you actually left for Rockingham before 5?
No, we left at 5. You asked me what time the conversation took place.
Slightly before 5, you disclosed to him that you'd had prior involvement.
I said I'd been on a radio call there a long time ago.
And up to that point,
And again, coincidence or not, Mark Fuhrman had been previously called a few years before the murders to OJ Simpson's house for a domestic violence report. So he's dealt with OJ Simpson and Nicole Brown in the past,
you said nothing about that prior involvement.
No,
but he didn't tell them that he was involved in it before. He didn't tell the other policemen.
Do we approach her?
Let's get through this.
Gentlemen, there's some.
Hang on here. One starred comment, and then we'll jump back in. Legal Advice says, did you cover the Bronco chases that happened on TV? I was actually in law school when this happened. It was between my second and third year of law school. The last half of my second year, the summer, and then the third half of the year that way. The third half, the first half of my third year. So yeah, I didn't cover it here, but I was watching it live on TV. Just because I'm old. All right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there's something I need to look at before we proceed any further, and given the.
There was OJ's blood all over the crime scene. No, incorrect. Keep watching the series. You'll see how very little of OJ's blood there was anywhere. A couple of drops here, one drop on a gate, one drop on a pair of socks found in his house. Not a lot of blood, but anyway, that's outside the scope of today. Today we're watching this.
The hour, we're going to take our recess for the lunch hour just a little bit early. Please remember my admonition to you: don't discuss the case amongst yourselves, don't form any opinions about the case, don't conduct any deliberations till the matter has been submitted to you. Do not allow anybody to communicate with you with regard to the case. Detective Fuhrman, you may step down. You're ordered to come back at 1:30. And counsel, let me ask you to remain so we can take a look at this. All right?
I'm not sure whatever happened to Judge Ito. We get back to it here. We don't have to sit through all the breaks, luckily.
Counsel, anything we need to take up before we invite the jurors to join us? All right, Deputy McNair, let's have the jurors, please.
CW saying, I meant, did you watch the chase here on your channel? There's nothing to watch. He just drove down the road for 90 minutes. There was literally nothing to watch.
Gentlemen, welcome back. All right, Detective Furman, would you please resume the witness stand?
The dancing Itos. Saturday
All
Night
right, the
Live.
record
Yeah.
should reflect we've all been joined by our jury panel. Detective Mark Furman is still on the witness stand under cross-examination by Mr. Bailey. Good afternoon again, Detective Furman.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
You're reminded you're still under oath. Mr. Bailey, you may continue.
Detective Furman, in the course of your career as a patrolman and more
Ito
recently
died
as a
last
detective,
year?
how many people would you say you have questioned with respect to criminal investigations?
In the hundreds, sir,
Hundreds.
if not more.
Now he's still
And
alive.
has it been your experience that when you're questioning someone that is not being totally candid with you, their version of events may change from telling to telling? Is that your experience?
Are you saying if they're not candid and I know that, then I can
You know it.
expect?
Do you learn that because they tell you one thing one time and describe it quite differently another time?
Oh,
Now, his wife died
I
last
believe
year.
it would
He's still
depend on the
alive.
time and when you're questioning them.
But
The
that
space between those events.
could be a sign of fabricating, could
Possibly.
a person who doesn't have a real image in their mind but is describing something that didn't happen.
I couldn't speculate on that, no.
That would be speculation.
Yes.
Now, Detective Furman, if you would return to the transcript, and if you would look at page 21 of July 6th, which is toward the end, the third direct examination.
What page, sir?
Someone show me a link. Someone put a link where it says he's dead. He's still alive. 72 years old. His wife died last year, but he's still alive and kicking. Flea Bailey died recently. Yeah. Johnny Cochran died a short while ago as well. But Lito's around. Is the witness drinking from a beer pong cup? Yes, he's drinking from a red plastic Solo cup. All right, let's get back to this.
21, the second day.
Second day.
In response to a question that began on 20 at line 24, all right, with respect to finding the glove, after you found the glove, what did you do? You saw the glove on the walk, then what did you do? You answered, I continued eastbound on the path that went to the rear of the property. And I spent, I'm not going to say a considerable amount of time, I'm going to say about 15 minutes looking for a person that could have left that glove there, which indicated somebody was injured. I looked in all the places I believed a human could secret himself or collapse in that area, and then I returned to the front of the residence. And I assume the word secret was meant to be secrete.
Yes.
Okay. Now, here you said that the appearance of the glove convinced you that you were looking for an injured person, not a killer. Could you tell us why that's so?
Or
Yeah,
it could be
that-
one and the same.
Could be one and the same.
Yes.
See, I just do not like the way he's answering these questions. I went back there to look for either the murderer or an injured person. Why would this indicate an injured person? Why would a bloody glove in a back alley that matches one at a murder site indicate an injured person? Well, maybe it's the same person. Maybe the murderer is injured.
Well, Is that what you meant when you said someone who was injured? Either a killer or a victim?
Could be either one.
Okay. And why were you looking for someone that was injured based on a glove with a sticky substance on it? What was the clue to the injury?
Well, there was blood evidence on the Bronco.
Okay. So you thought that might have come from a person who was driving the Bronco with an injury.
Possibly.
You had been told that the only one that used the Bronco, according to your own testimony, was Mr. Simpson.
Yes.
You knew, did you not, that Mr. Simpson left town at 11 o'clock, very close there too?
No, I didn't.
You knew that if the glove was connected with the thumb, it had been out there for a long period of time.
Yes.
Okay. And you were looking for places where a human being could secrete himself?
Yes.
All right. So as I take it from your reading of this answer, you're looking for a killer who is injured, who is hiding and may have collapsed.
Or a victim.
Or a victim.
Yes.
Okay. Then this is the search that took you the 15 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, there was some question in
Blasphemy.
your mind earlier today as to whether you had told Detective Van Adder and Lang about your thoughts when you took them down to see the glove. You recall that?
I recall the question, yes.
And you were unsure as to whether you had said anything to them when you were down at the scene of the glove.
Yeah, I don't recall if I did.
Okay.
No.
Would you look page 22, next one over. Line 20. So then after taking Detective Phillips down to that area and describing everything that you saw, who did you take next? Detective Van Adder. And did you do the same thing with him? Yes, exactly the same thing. Does that tell you that you in fact gave Van Adder all of the detail you had just given Phillips?
No, I don't think verbal. I would.
Next question and answer.
Well, I'm stopping the
Sustained.
question about this one.
Sustained.
Pardon me?
Sustained. You need to ask him the full question and answer that full colloquy there. Related
We've
to
all heard the
same
word
crime.
colloquy recently,
Each time
haven't
you
we?
went, you took the detective all the way down to where the glove was and brought them all the way back. Yes. And then did the same with Detective Lang. Yes. Did you take any of the detectives all the way back to the area behind Arnell's room that you described going to yourself earlier? I don't believe so. I described to Detective Phillips, I'm almost positive I did to both the other detectives. I scooted under the air conditioner. Now back to my question. When you said exactly the same to Van Adder as to Phillips, did you mean that you said the same things to him?
Objection. Counsel is still under 356.
Wait. 356, correct? All right, overruled.
Would you ask that question again, please?
Yes, when you used the word exactly to describe your tour with Van Adder, did that mean it was essentially exactly the same as the tour with Phillips?
Complete
I don't-
conversation.
I'm not sure I would have meant the verbiage, but describing where I walked, what I saw, what I sensed. Yes.
In other words, you may have said essentially the same thing without using exactly the same words.
No, I didn't say that.
Is that what you meant?
No.
So by exactly this, he described things exactly the same way. Apparently now means not similarly at all. He's either lying, he writes shitty reports, or he's an idiot, or a combination of all three of those. He's not setting himself up for any situation in which any of his answers are good, and Bailey knows it, and Bailey is killing him. Unfortunately, that's the best phrase I can use. He's just killing him. Joe Choi says, for doggy treats, thank you so much for that super chat. So deeply appreciated. Why is he bleeding anywhere? I'm not walking around leaving blood droplets in my wake. The only injury they found on him was a small cut on his knuckle, which he said that he'd had previously, and it reopened later, which kind of makes sense if he was committing murders wearing leather gloves. He shouldn't have had a cut on his knuckle. That part never really made sense to me. But yeah, as D Flesh says, those who say OJ's blood was all over the crime scene and Nicole's was inside the Bronco and his house are wrong. Neither OJ's blood was at the crime scene, nor was Nicole's in his house. There was one drop of OJ Simpson's blood. I think there was like maybe one or two, maybe three small drops on a back gate, but they were small drops. And when they tested them, they sort of tested positive for blood preservation chemicals, which doesn't look good. But again, we'll get into that when we get into the cross-examination of criminologist Dennis Fung. But so there was a couple of drops that, as the defense forensics guy will tell us, didn't really match blood drops that would come from someone in motion. They would match blood drops that were placed there carefully. But we'll talk about those later. There was no Nicole Brown Simpson blood found in his house. The one piece of evidence that connected him to the scene was a bloody shoe print that matched the size and brand of shoe that OJ Simpson was known to wear, some Ferragamo shoes, if I believe. Bruno Maglia shoes up here, yeah. Anyway, high-end shoes. Yeah, it was the Bruno Maglia shoes. Anyway, yeah. Let's continue.
All right. What does exactly mean to you, Detective?
Yeah.
That I don't remember.
Yeah. So you said you told him exactly the same story. What does exactly mean to you, Mr. Police Officer, who is supposed to be very, very precise?
All right. What does exactly mean to you, Detective?
That I don't remember exactly what the conversation was. It seemed to be more lengthy with Ron Phillips. I'm not sure about the other two detectives.
So that when you said, did you do the same thing with Van Adder? Exactly. That's not what you meant.
Yes, I led him down to the glove and showed him the glove.
Oh. After taking the detectives to view this glove, you went out to the front of the house and you just stood there, correct?
For a few moments, yes.
Now, was it at that point that Detective Van Adder announced that this was now a crime scene, or was it later in the day, as you told us earlier?
I think there was discussion at that point, but at about that time, we were sent back to Bundy, Detective Phillips and myself.
Did Van Adder say, we are going to have to handle this like a crime scene within minutes of seeing the glove that you had pointed out?
Yes, but I think that's different than this is now a crime scene.
Oh, I see. He was speculating about a future decision he thought he might make. Was that your understanding?
Yes.
I love how he answers the sarcastic question in a serious manner. He doesn't know he'd been out sarcasmed right there. Listen to that. That's just a beautiful question and a really lame answer.
You had pointed out.
Yes, but I think that's different than this is now a crime scene.
Oh, I see. He was speculating about a future decision he thought he might make. Was that your understanding?
Yes.
Yeah.
What was your condition after you had taken the detectives back to view the glove and when you were standing in front of the building? Was anything unusual going on with respect to you?
I think there was somewhat of an adrenaline rush that I experienced when I was in the rear. And I believe when I was in front of the house, I started realizing that this could have been a match to the glove on Bundy.
When you came out after taking all three detectives down there and telling them it was a match, you suddenly realized that it could be a match?
I didn't tell them it was a match. I got their opinion. And when they had the same opinion,
didn't you discuss with each detective in turn the fact that this glove looked like a match on Bundy?
I'm sure Detective Phillips, I'm not sure on Van Adder and Lang.
Okay. And why do you tell us that you are now, after these tours are over, suddenly realizing that there may be a connection and thus experiencing a rush of adrenaline?
No, I was coming down from the adrenaline
When did this rush start?
when I was going east on the path.
Okay. On line 7 of 24, so if you recall this question and this answer, if you follow me, please, do you know approximately what time that was when you heard that discussion referring to the crime scene? Answer, no. After that, I came out front. To be honest with you, I was a little taken back by what had transpired. We didn't enter with any intention of finding anything there, and I just kind of stood out there, and I was really kind of collecting my thoughts. When I found the glove back there on this pathway, I have to admit to you that the adrenaline started pumping because I really didn't know what was going on.
See, this is why this is such utter bullshit. He's contradicting himself from one statement to the next. You know, I was coming down from this adrenaline rush. I started my adrenaline rush when I was walking down the path because I thought there might be something there. And in another statement, he's saying that when he saw the glove, that's when the adrenaline rush started. He's saying, oh, this matches that one. Then he's saying that he told them later that this might be a match. Then he asked their opinion if it was a match. Then he has these adrenaline rushes. This is a guy who tells habitually so many lies that he can't keep them straight. Michael Palmer, you're here every week. You're here sewing shit. You enjoy it being here, so don't deny the fact you like my coverage of the OJ Simpson trial because you're here every week snarking at something. I can't believe you're this gullible, Jeff. I'm not gullible to anything. I'm telling you what's found there. I'm telling you what the lawyer is saying. I'm pointing. You cannot say that Mark Fuhrman is a perfect witness who did nothing wrong, never told a lie, never changed a story, was never somewhere where he shouldn't have been, and didn't find all of the most important pieces of evidence to further his career. No wonder you're not a criminal defense lawyer. You'd never make it in that area of law. Well, we can talk about that some other day. But looks like F. Lee Bailey's doing a pretty damn good job, and that's what we're here to talk about. The planting of reasonable doubt in the brain, in the minds of the jurors. That's what you've got to do. And he is doing a masterful job of it here. It was a small cut. It was just a very small cut across one of his knuckles. Not wrong about the blood evidence. Sorry, I hate to disappoint you. But let's continue, and please enjoy yourself for the rest of the stream.
And no matter if I found a victim or a suspect, I still had some type of very serious situation at that time, and I think I was coming down from that a little bit. Question, when you say, quote, the adrenaline, answer, unquote, you mean from seeing the crime scene? Answer, no. Question, from seeing the glove? Answer, when I found the glove and actually realized this glove was very close in description and color to the glove at the crime scene, my heart started pounding and I realized what I had probably found. When that gets going and you never get a chance to run it off or get rid of it, you get kind of a downtime. And I think I was collecting my, not composure, but my thoughts a little bit out front. Question. So while you were collecting your thoughts and relaxing after your discovery, you heard a discussion going on inside the house. Answer, yes, I walked into the front of the residence, and in the kitchen, Detective Lang and Van Adder were discussing what had been found. I believe Detective Phillips was in there also. And they were discussing, quote, we really have got another crime scene here, unquote. And a search warrant was brought up. Quote, we have to get a search warrant, unquote. Detective Van Adder said that, and I don't know exactly what time that was. Have I read your rather lengthy answer correctly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, you said when I found the glove and actually realized this glove was very close in description and color to the glove of the crime scene, can you tell us when that point was within this period?
I testified before several times that when I saw the glove, it looked very similar to the glove on Bundy.
The connection was immediate in your mind.
Yep, that's me.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That connection that it looked very similar, yes.
Okay. Now, on page 26, Detective Fuhrman, line 16, a question right. Now, with respect to the excitement you felt in encountering the glove, you realized immediately this may have broken the case. Answer: I don't think it was excitement. I was caught on a 2-foot path in a poorly lit with a little tiny flashlight by myself with no vest, and I must admit that I think the only reason that I proceeded is I felt more that I might have a victim than a suspect. I don't know why I thought that. Like I said, I did not believe the circumstances would unfold as they did when I led these detectives up to Rockingham. I continued, probably hoping that I could find some answer for this glove or somebody that had been injured or something, but it was more alert than excitement. Did you give that answer?
Yes, I did.
All right. So you described that you were caught on a tiny 2-foot path, all alone, with a little tiny flashlight and no vest, by which you meant a bulletproof vest, correct?
Yes, sir.
Would you explain to this court how it was that you were caught there?
I'm sure I don't understand what
You don't understand the question.
No, sir.
I'm using your word.
Yes, he's using his words.
Caught on a 2-foot path in a poorly lit with a little tiny flashlight by myself with no vest. And I must admit, the only reason I proceeded is I felt more that I might have had a victim than a suspect. Now, were you caught or could you have left immediately the way you came in?
I was committed to that point
Committed how?
because I was there.
You had nobody with you.
I was committed by my presence.
You didn't have anyone with you, did you?
No.
You weren't wearing a vest, you've said.
Yes.
Your flashlight was rather inadequate for the task, right?
It was not the best it could be, no.
But you comforted yourself that you could proceed despite these deficiencies because you thought you would find a victim rather than a suspect.
I was concerned with that, yes.
Tell the court, if you can, why the presence of the other murder glove from Bundy made you think that you were about to encounter a victim, Detective Furman.
Because I didn't have anything to believe that there was a suspect there other than the bloody glove.
You realize that you have told us earlier and testified under oath earlier
Yes.
that the bloody glove made you think you would find a suspect,
Or a victim.
but by far the more likely a suspect, you said, did you not?
Yes.
But here you said on your oath, the only reason you proceeded unarmed and alone, or at least without a vest and alone, was because you didn't expect to find a suspect. You said that, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Objection, no, that states the testimony.
Overruled.
Does that
Yeah, she said she objected because it misstates the testimony. That was exactly what the testimony was. See, he's a writer. He wrote books after this. He's going through this and he's answering these questions like a crime writer would write. You know, where he's taking the glory, he's dramatizing it. You know, I thought there might be a victim. That's why I mustered up the courage to charge down the dark alley. But then he's telling a different story later. This is pure contradiction. This one of these two statements, both of which were made under oath, are lies. One or both of them are lies. They cannot both be true.
mean that you did not think that you would be in danger if you proceeded eastbound through the cobwebby path, because whoever you would find would be hurt and not dangerous?
I don't believe that there was no feeling of danger, no.
But you did say, I must admit, I think the only reason I proceeded is I felt more that I might have had a victim than a suspect.
Maybe that was a hope.
You now say that was a hope and not a thought.
No, I'm saying maybe that was a hope. My presence of mind then and at the prelim.
You recall that yesterday we talked about your visit to what we have called the fence that is on the border of the two properties, 873 and 875.
Yes.
Okay. You called it, I believe, the north border.
At the north border of the residence to the south, yes.
When you described this experience yesterday, you told us that you were standing, having been relieved, waiting for your replacement at the intersection of Dorothy and Bundy, correct?
We're talking at the Bundy location now?
Yes.
Oh, yes, sir. The north residence
That
from Bundy.
Lieutenant Spangler, your ultimate boss in the Bureau of Detectives, came and brought you up to the fence where Goldman's body was crumpled
Yes,
without going through the tape or under it.
that's correct.
There was no tape beyond that end of the fence, was there?
No, that residence was not taped off in the front.
You were able to walk in a little walkway next to the dividing line,
Yes,
but outside the fence.
yes,
And there, Lieutenant Spangler, having invited you to take a look, you examined Goldman's body and found a laceration.
that was observed by Lieutenant Spangler.
But you saw it too,
Oh, yes, sir.
and you thought it was a tear.
I used the word laceration.
And when I asked you to describe it further, did you not say it was torn?
No, I said laceration is tearing. It's not an incision.
In any event. And when I asked you if there was anything else that you saw at that point, you said no, didn't you?
Yes,
Now, on July 5th, at page 64, which we have reviewed, when you described the same incident, there is no mention whatsoever of your having been relieved, is there? Page 64, Detective Furman.
you're going to have to give me a line, sir.
Okay. Starting at the top, just reading to yourself so that you can locate yourself as you did this morning. On the steps, looking down at the female victim and not being able to clearly see the male victim.
That's correct.
Okay. You said then, line 14, 12, we had flashlights. We were looking at the female victim. We looked at the male victim. You're still in the steps, right?
Yes,
You said, I noticed the glove when I walked around to thee after I exited the residence the first time and walked around to the side on the north side, north perimeter of 875 Bundy. There's an iron fence, and through that iron fence, you can get a very close look at the male victim.
No. Read it
Can
again.
get very close to the male victim.
Read the
Sorry.
whole sentence
Mhm.
again.
And looking there, I could see them down at his feet.
Wait,
We read that
wait,
earlier.
wait. Read it again.
Okay. There's an iron fence, and through that iron fence, you can get very close to the male victim. And looking there, I could see them down at his feet. We read that earlier, you recall?
yes, sir.
Now, there's nothing in there about your having been relieved, is there?
About being relieved?
Yeah.
Objection.
Objection what? Vague, sustained.
Had you been relieved when this
The
happened?
question's not here, counsel.
Pardon me, huh?
The question is not here. It's what did you observe there? It's not,
I'm putting another question to him. Had he been relieved before he made this excursion? That's not in the transcript. I'm asking his memory.
Yes,
Okay. Did you tell us yesterday you went here at the request of and with Lieutenant Spangler?
yes.
Is there anything in this description about Lieutenant Spangler?
It wasn't asked, sir.
Did you tell us yesterday about a laceration?
Yes,
Is there anything in this description about a laceration?
that also wasn't asked.
Well, this is a piece of information that you volunteered. It wasn't in response to any question, was it, Detective Furman?
sustained.
Was the question which was put to you that triggered this whole answer, when did you first observe it, meaning the glove?
Yes,
And that gave rise to your statement about what you saw from the steps and your tour up to the northern part of the residence and looking through the fence. Correct?
yes.
All right. Now, when you gave this testimony, had you forgotten about the laceration?
No,
Had you forgotten about Lieutenant Spangler?
no.
Once more then, Detective Furman, we asked you to look at page 49 this morning because of a word that appears on line 23 of that page relating to blood in the Bronco. And you
Yes.
agree that that's what the page says? in
I
any
agree,
event.
sir.
All right. But your feeling was that the reporter made a mistake.
I didn't say that. I just did not meet in the Bronco.
Pardon me? What was your
Would you
answer?
ask the question
You're
again,
saying
sir?
that the reporter didn't make a mistake, but the word is there somehow.
I don't know. I just know what I meant when I testified.
All right. So that if you in fact use the word in, you misspoke yourself?
Yes.
Can we play that portion of the tape, Your Honor?
Yes.
Misspoke. I think that means lie.
Talked to the man that was in the bungalow. He's seated at the bar. And I continued out the front of the residence.
Why?
Why was, from the statement he made, the crashing sound and the time that he heard it, combined with the blood in the Bronco.
The blood in the Bronco.
On July 5th. Go ahead and play the rest of it to Mr. Harris.
There's a possibility there could be another victim or a suspect that had collapsed or escaped via that route on the southern border of the house.
What?
Does that refresh your recollection?
Absolutely, sir.
Okay. And what do you now say you said?
In.
In. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, Detective Fuhrman, do you have a financial interest in the outcome of this case?
I do.
This is interesting.
No, I don't.
Have you not brought claims that you intend to prosecute when this case is concluded for money?
Civil suits?
Mhm.
Absolutely, sir.
Do you know a lawyer whose name is Tortle O or something like that? Tortle
Yes,
O?
sir. Yes.
All right, with court reporter, please.
Okay, let's push pause here for just a real question. What this is all about, if I recall correctly, was he sued like everybody, all the defense team and some news outlets and things, for saying that he planted evidence, for saying he was a crooked cop. So now what F. Lee Bailey's doing in this random, just apparent shift of focus is saying you have a financial interest in this, because if OJ Simpson is found guilty, you're vindicated, and that would be evidence that you could use in your civil case to show that you're not a crooked cop and you didn't plant the evidence. But if OJ Simpson goes free, then you basically lose your civil cases. So the implication here, the implication they're trying to give is that he is lying, falsifying evidence, doing all of these other things in order to win a conviction against OJ Simpson so that he can win his civil claims and make a shit ton of money. Yeah, so that's where we're going with this line of questioning, and it kind of goes off the rails a little bit later. But let's plow through these last few chats here so that we don't have anything hanging, because we're going to be wrapping up here in about 10-15 minutes to go over to the Brooks trial. Scott Hamilton, OJ told someone Chris, Bob Kardashian were in a hot tub. Bob went to bed. OJ took Chris to Pound Town so hard he had Bob take her to the ER in the AM. Wow, thank you for that, Scott Hamilton. That was a rather graphic way of saying rumor has it that OJ and Kim Kardashian's dad had an affair. Kim Kardashian's dad. Yeah, Kim Kardashian's mom. Misspoke there, didn't I? Had an affair. But thank you so much for that. RoboNext. So OJ did it, but there wasn't enough evidence, so the cops planted some fucking idiots. That is pretty close to my theory of the case. I don't know if he actually did it himself. Was he there? I think it's likely he was there watching. I personally I think it's unlikely he actually did it himself. Was he there? Probably. And again, this is the problem. This is why I'm showing things like this. So you can see that this happens in real life so often, way more often than it should, that the police know somebody did something. but they don't want to lose the case. They know they're up against some great lawyers, so they have to try to make it just a little bit better. They have to make sure that there's nothing. They have to make sure there's enough evidence. So they do things, and then they get called out. And because they cut these corners, because they did things that are a little bit shady, that calls into question all of the legitimate evidence. And then you get reasonable doubt because they fuck around with one piece of evidence. That means they can fuck around with another piece of evidence. And you have your reasonable doubt and a not guilty verdict. 2012 Jameson, YouTube has a legal support good place to go for channel strike information, including getting the documents used to determine basis for strike. They do. That is correct. Still doesn't work very often because they're idiots. D-Flash60, thank you so much. Furman screwed the prosecution's pooch. He wasn't alone in doing that. He had help from criminologist Dennis Fung. John Diaz, not saying that, just saying OJ did it. Admit it, Jeff. Stop the cover up. Nah, no cover up. And yeah, I don't know if he did it or not. And Tom Sissy says, I thought it was particularly damning that several attorneys examined the book written by the jurors and found they misunderstood and dismissed much of the forensics without justification. That is true. That's true. But that was the problem with the prosecution. This was the very, very early stages of DNA evidence. This was 1995. And if you saw the opening statements that the prosecution gave, they were trying to wow the audience with this is like Jurassic Park. I think Marcia Clark actually brought up Jurassic Park in preparation for talking about DNA evidence. Then, if I recall correctly, they went through a good solid 2 weeks, morning to night, talking about DNA testing, how it's done, what it means, all the scientific stuff that went way over the juror's head. The prosecution had no situational awareness. They weren't reading the room, as we say now, and they apparently didn't catch on to the fact that they were going into way too much detail. Unnecessary information. They did a really, really horrible job of presenting that forensic evidence, the DNA evidence. And if you also saw the opening statements from the defense, they said, all of these tests that the prosecution is going to tell you about. Well, our expert witness is the Nobel Prize winning scientist that invented the test that they're going to talk about. But we're going to have him come and tell you. So yeah, that is an absolute true statement. They misunderstood and dismissed a lot of it because it was presented so poorly. Steve Johnson, the guy was on the stand for 8 days. Now that was Dennis Fung. We're going to do that. I think we'll just do all 8. It'll take 2 months to get through, but we'll do all 8 days. Why not? Now, God, it'll probably take 3 or 4 months to get through, but it was so epic. He was on the stand for 8.5 days, the LA criminologist Dennis Fung, under a blistering and withering cross-examination by Barry Scheck, who is also one of my hero lawyers. What's the chance we have a verdict tonight on the DB case? None. It's going to be about 3 or 4 hours of jury instructions, then closing statements, then another little bit of jury instructions, and the deliberations will probably start on Wednesday. Yeah. So we might get a verdict on Wednesday. I can't see it going past Wednesday. And did OJ ever find the real killer? Nope. He did not. He hasn't found him yet. Still looking on all the golf courses in Florida. That's where he suspects they're hiding, because that's where he spent. Well, you have to give him a little bit of a break. He was in jail for a lot of that, for menacing other people with you kidnapping people and menacing them with firearms to get back some collectibles. So yeah, this entire trial is largely available on YouTube. If you just search for OJ Simpson trial, there's a bunch of channels that have the entire thing. It's also available in much better quality on Court TV, but they have a ridiculous amount of ads. If you go to courttv.com, they have a ridiculous amount of Now, all right, this is kind of a good place to end here for two reasons. One, we're shifting over to the financial motive for the case. The financial motives, we've already got into the evidentiary mode, but he's a liar. F. Lee Bailey's established that Mark Fuhrman is a liar. Now we're going to go into he has a financial reason to lie, and that'll get dealt with relatively quickly. And then we're going to get into the results, which is he's an evidence planting racist, will be the third section of the testimony. Starting next week, we're going to get into N-bomb N-bomb territory. And for those of you that may have remembered, the reason we say the N-word today rather than saying the word is because of this trial. This trial, there's I can't remember the number, and there's like 42, 46 times the N-bomb is dropped during this trial, and it would have been a lot more if they'd got in some audio tapes. But F. Lee Bailey presses him, and presses him hard with hard R. Did you say that? We're going to get into all that starting next week. But the black prosecutor, Chris Darden, refused to say it, so they started referring to it as the N-word. And that's your cultural history lesson for the day. So, all right, I'm going to wrap this up here. We are going to shift directly into my stream, my coverage of the Darrell Brooks closing section, the jury instructions and the closing arguments. I'll be doing this until Nick wakes up, and which time we'll hand it over to Nick. So when we wrap this up, it'll just flow straight over, and then give me a couple minutes to shut this one down and open up the next one, and we'll be right there. Just in case, let me pull up the link, just in case we don't, we have technical difficulties that don't allow us to get there. Hang on, go away. Stop that, Ito. Boom. All right. I'm going to pull up my stream here. All right. This will be my stream for the Darrell Brooks trial. Again, it will be there until Rackets resurrects himself and shows up. Content, that's what we want, live. In case you don't get automatically sent over there, please feel free to click on this incoming link right here. All right, guys, thank you for joining for this. Join us on Tuesday, this Thursday, 2 days from now, when we'll get into the further cross-examination. Until then, we'll see you right over at the Darrell Brooks trial. Thank you, mods. Thank you, chat. Thank you, those who are just listening in the background. And thank you for all the super chats. Catch you on the flip side here in about 30 seconds. Bye.